What's up, y'all? This is Alex from the Rim Review. The Rim Review is a page that offers in-depth player analysis and gives nuance to the way that you watch basketball. In this series, we're going to be looking over every single prospect in the upcoming draft class, some of which you may already know. However, there are going to be numerous hidden gems throughout this series. In today's video, we're going to be looking at Trevon Brazile out of Arkansas, the 6'10 forward. Trevon Brazile is an interesting prospect that I have going towards the end of the second round in this coming class. We'll get into these reasons why in a bit. Let's first look at his offensive strengths. Brazile is a lob threat, being 6'10 and relatively athletic. This allows him to be a lob threat in transition, also in a pick and roll situation or cutting. He's also a stretch big, and he shoots 35.3% from three. That's really great. Finally, he has a pretty decent ability to get offensive rebounds and putbacks. He's not going to wow you offensive rebounding wise, however, his athleticism allows him to get way more offensive rebounds than you might think, and there are a lot of highlight putback dunks that you'll see in this video. Let's look at his offensive weaknesses. Firstly, he's non-existent as a screener. He doesn't set physical screens, he barely sets screens at all, and he just doesn't really help his teammates in that set. Secondly, he has a very loose handle, having a 0.32 assist to turnover ratio. That is atrocious. Even though he's a big, you cannot have that. And that turnover ratio really should be worse because his shot selection is extremely poor. Let's start off looking at Trevon Brazile in transition. In this possession, Trevon Brazile is going to leak out and be able to come and run the floor for a lob dunk. This level of athleticism is elite. Additionally, Trevon Brazile's shooting allows him to be a trail threat in transition. Right here, he's going to catch the ball and step in to a very clean looking jump shot. Another thing that he does at a pretty decent rate is run the floor and go to the corner. As you see right here, he has a relatively high motor on this play, fades to the corner, and knocks down a three. While this is all great, sometimes he has a big tendency to settle for jump shots. Right here, he catches the ball in transition, and honestly should just reset the play. He has a pretty decent pump fake to get his defender in the air. However, taking a dribble in and taking a long two in the second half is simply not a good shot. Now let's move on to what is one of the most exciting parts of his game, offensive rebounding. I'll highlight Trevon Brazile right here on the wing before the play starts. Right here, Arkansas is going to take a really bad shot. However, Trevon Brazile just makes a massive highlight play. Really, you can't teach this. This is just going in and just letting your presence be felt. Right here, not to the same extent. However, he's going to get up, be long, and get an easy putback dunk. Against UNC Wilmington here, he fights, rips the ball, and uses his strength to get an and one finish. Offensive rebounding is a really good part of his game, and you're going to see a lot of highlights from that. Trevon Brazile also showcases nice ability to cut. While he doesn't do it a lot, being the athlete that he is allows him to make plays off the ball. Right here, he's kind of casually walking, however he recognizes that there's a lane and really is able to explode and get a nice dunk. Right here, you see Brazile kind of camping out in the corner. Once the press is broken, this defender has to come up here, and it's night-night really at that point because Brazile is going to get this lob 10 out of 10 times. Really exciting stuff. Now let's watch the few attempts in which Trevon Brazile was used as a screener. It didn't happen a lot, but let's examine the ones that it did occur in. Right here, you're going to see him operate in a DHO situation. He's going to catch the ball at the top of the key, flow into a zoom being when this screener sets a screen right here for this guy to then run up into a DHO. After the DHO, he twists, which is the correct read, has an open look, and gets a layup. While this occurs, here's a time where he's in a pick and pop situation, and it's not so good. Right here, he kind of walks into the screen, which I never understand why players do it. If you're gonna run into a screen, you have so many more opportunities. You could run really hard and then open up towards the basket and push off this way. You can run really hard and just set a good screen and then kind of turn around and stay there, or you can run really hard and slip. Neither of that happens here, and instead he walks into a screen, makes no contact. He also has a very awkward rollout, not a smooth transition, and just gets not the best look. Right here, he's going to do a DHO, twist it, now go into a pick and pop situation. He does make contact this time, however, there's no true separation, and you see him settle for a really bad jump shot. I understand that he made that shot, however, that's not an efficient shot. It's not a winning shot in basketball. Right here, let's see Brazile in an isolation situation. Arkansas is running their delay series, which is when he gets the ball at the top of the key. He makes multiple jabs, pump fakes, and has a nice straight line drive. Really great athleticism, which is exciting to see. And this next isolation situation, they're also going to run it through delay. For those of you who don't know, delay is when the guard right here just passes up to a big at the top of the key. You'll see it a lot in the NBA. You might be watching a Bucks game and you're going to see Drew Holiday, or I guess now Damian Lillard, dribble up the court and then kick it to Brook Lopez to run whatever delay series that they have. Right here, Arkansas doesn't do much with this delay series. They just clear space for a Brazile straight line drive. Right here, let's watch Trevon Brazile in another isolation situation. He's going to get the ball here, once again, at the top of the key, guarded by Grant Nelson, who's one of the better defenders in college basketball. He blows by him, doesn't create a ton of separation, however, he gets a nice touch shot. While that touch shot was exciting, sometimes Brazile is way too soft with the ball. Right here, you're going to see Ole Miss trap the box, which is when they have this help side defender come over here, while the defender on Brazile is still on him. That creates kind of a box that he can't get out of. And Brazile really just panics with this, tries this skip pass over the top. I'll tell you one thing, that's never going to work. And he just really is weak with the ball, which leads to a turnover. Additionally, Brazile just sometimes doesn't have the strongest of drives in general. You're going to see right here, he gets the ball at the top of the key, kind of maybe potentially he's kind of faking like he's going to go into a DHO right here, recognizes that the guard is being top blocked. As you see right here, the Georgia defender is making this difficult for him, so he decides to keep, and then he just settles for not a great shot. He doesn't create much separation, he isn't looking for anything else, and he's just off balance. Right here, you're going to see an overall loose handle, and he has a guard on him right here on the under out of bounds play. He rips through, however, just this activity from the guard and being physical makes it to where he just loses the ball. That can't happen if you want to have a long career in the pros. Right here, he catches the ball again at the top of the key. They clear the side, and he just panics. Simply just struggles with any kind of contact or good defensive resistance. When he doesn't get this level of resistance, he still sometimes takes really bad shots. Against UNC Wilmington, Trevon Brazile should be dominating. Right now, he has a low major guard guarding him on the perimeter. He should be able to back him down, blow by, do anything, especially if you're going to be an NBA player. Instead, he decides to jab and just take a semi-contested off-dribble mid-range. I understand that he's trying to get to his spot here. However, there's so many more reads that you can make that are much more efficient, especially when you're going against UNC Wilmington. Right here, against Alabama, you're going to see a very similar situation. Brazile right here is standing in the corner, he catches it, and now has Grant Williams in an isolation situation. There's no level of explosiveness, there's really not much of a decision here. I think really I would have liked him to maybe have made a quicker, like you could shoot this honestly if you wanted to, if you were ready to shoot. You could pump fake like Grant Nelson, his momentum is coming this way. You should just be able to rip through and make a play. Instead, Brazile is overly patient with the ball, decides I'm going to jack up a contested mid-range, not a winning shot. Let's watch Brazile in some other situations such as this one. Right here, he's going to get the ball and face up. He's calling for the ball right here. Now, low-key gets away with the travel. As you see, he's able to change his pivot foot. However, it's a very clean-looking three and a good shot. In other catch-and-shoot situations, he showcases why he's able to space in the perimeter. Right here, he relocates to the corner and does a really good job forcing Colin Murray Boyles of South Carolina to make a decision. Murray Boyles is worried about this man driving, and he has to worry about Brazile as a shooter. In the NBA, oftentimes teams will consider maybe helping more off the strong side corner, so this can be a way that Brazile can score at the next level. Against Vanderbilt here, you're going to see a similar type shot. Brazile is moving off the ball, however, he's going against the zone here. He recognizes this, relocates, moves back out, and gets a three. Against Duke, Brazile had one of his best games of the season. Right here, they're running one of their sets. He bumps back out to the three and knocks it down over Kyle Filipowski and gets the crowd going. While he shoots a lot of threes, I once again want to highlight 35% is a relatively not amazing 3-point percentage, so you're going to see some misses from him. But right here, I really like his movement off the ball. You see once again, he passes it up to a guard. The guard's able to get downhill. Help side has to come over. Brazile does a really good job just sliding to the corner. It's these simple footwork decisions that are going to allow him to be able to succeed and score. While this shot didn't go in, the next one will if you continue to do the right things. It's all about the process. On this possession right here, Brazile showcases how he's able to operate as someone you can kick the ball out to. Once again, Arkansas is going to run a short roll play. He catches the ball in the corner and gets a pretty clean look. It doesn't go in, but it's a good shot. Finally, let's look at Brazile attacking closeouts. Right here, Arkansas is going to be running a horn set in which Brazile sets a down screen. After the down screen, Brazile fades to the corner and then attempts to attack the closeout. However, once again, it's not really a great shot. I'd like him to have a quicker decision here and maybe immediately rip through or get a shot off. Dribbling into this mid-range is okay because you get into your spot. It seems to be a little bit more fluid this time than it was in previous possessions. However, it's still too much of a bad habit. Right here, Arkansas is going to run a Spain pick and roll action. What Spain pick and roll is, for those of you who don't know, is a screen occurs right here, and then Trevon Brazile is setting a screen on this South Carolina defender. Brazile recognizes that the screen is going the other way, and so he just slips it and pops out to the wing. While he doesn't get the ball there, he did a good job making the read. Additionally, he's able to do a good job here, floating into this flare screen, which is occurring right here. He catches the ball with good momentum, all going towards the basket, which is nice to see. However, once he does this, Colin Murray-Boyles tells him to get big and just rips the ball out of his hands. Really just a loose handle and not what you want to see. You see this exact same thing, unfortunately, against Florida, where Brazile gets another situation to attack the closeout. However, he simply loses the ball. The decision making here just isn't quick enough to succeed. I'd like him once again, just be ready to shoot, flow into something. You can dribble in. All the NBA teams love having kind of a grenade here, which is if he dribbles into this DHO with this man. And then this guy could come down and shoot a three. JJ Redick does it all the time. The Nuggets love this action. That's what championship teams do. They have second, they have third, they have fourth. Some teams even have fifth reads that you're able to make. However, with Trevon Brazile, you struggle to get past the first read. Now that we've explored Trevon Brazile's offense, let's look at his defense. When looking at his defensive strengths, the first of which is the fact that he's switchable. He can play a variety of different pick and roll coverages, but because he's 6'10 and mobile, he can switch onto guards and make plays. Secondly, he does a really good job in straight line drive situations, and his driving line defense is pretty good. Finally, his shot blocking is elite. With his athleticism, he's able to make plays that other guys simply cannot make. While this is true, he does have some pretty big weaknesses. Firstly, he's atrocious in closeout situations. He maybe will overhelp, maybe he'll be late, maybe he won't be aware. However, his footwork is not at the level in which it needs to be to succeed there. Secondly, his communication is pretty much non-existent on the defensive end. Frequently, he misses the ability to call out things that are happening off the ball, he might miss a rotation, and he just simply doesn't talk. In the NBA, the best players will always tell you that you hear good teams. You do not hear Trevon Brazile. Finally, he's just not that physical. He's definitely more of a finesse big and somebody that you are going to want to kind of go against maybe fours in the NBA, even if he is going to have to play the five at times. He's just going to get out-muscled by fives in the pros. Let's start off just watching a full possession of Trevon Brazile defense. Right here, he's active and engaged as he guards Grant Nelson. He's made multiple attempts at the ball, and he's shown pretty decent footwork so far. I like to see it. Once again, Nelson picks it up. Brazile is active, trying to make a play. When looking at this though, one thing I do want to point out is this is a big game against Alabama. It's the beginning of the game. The vibes are very high. Brazile is one of those players that very much is I don't want to say a front runner, but at times will rely on the crowd to push him through. Later in the game, this level of effort was not necessarily there. Right here, Alabama's going to have a DHO to Mark Sears, and Brazil's in decent positioning. I'd like him to be a little bit more engaged, knees bent, and maybe make a swipe at the ball, but it's not awful. Once Sears kicks it back out to Nelson, Brazile does a really good job not falling for that pump fake, and honestly one of his few really decent closeouts. Right here, he's guarding the corner with the Auburn man. They get the ball there, swing to an empty side. Brazile initially gets beat, however he recovers and uses his length to get a block. Really good stuff. Against Vanderbilt here, you see him in a similar situation. Active hands on the wing, clear side, stays in front of his man, doesn't fall for the step through, and tips the ball. Really good stuff. Let's watch one more driving line possession from Trevon Brazile. Right here, you're going to see him in a DHO situation. Initially, Brazile thinks that the Vanderbilt player is going to hand the ball off to the guard on the wing, right here. However, the guard decides to not do this, and instead, he keeps it and initially gets a step on Brazile. However, Brazile is active, engaged, and gets a block. Good stuff. Now let's move on to closeouts, which is not really his strong suit. Right here, against Alabama, he helps in a little bit much, has a closeout, and then completely opens up. Right here, he's really not stopping much. He's closing out short, which I think Grant Nelson, if he wanted to, could take a 3. However, if you close out short, you want to be good from a footwork perspective. He opens up almost immediately despite closing out short and gives up way too open of a lane. You're going to see a very similar thing right here. Kentucky runs a horn set, and his closeout is simply non-existent. As you see right here, as soon as the ball is hit to the pop, he comes up. He's not chopping his feet. He just has high hands. Maybe he's worried about this high-low pass right here to the center. I'm not sure. But whatever it was, footwork were bad, and he just gets completely blown by. Against Georgia, once again, Georgia's also running a horn set. They take a little bit more dribbles. Doesn't matter. He still comes in with bad feet. If you look right here, he's almost closing out to the side of the offensive player, not where the offensive player is. Once again, giving the offensive player even more of an advantage. Not what you want to see. Let's look at one more closeout play from Brazile, this time against Stanford earlier in the season. Right here, it's going to be Brendan Angel who catches the ball, who is not very good of a shooter. Right here, if you're Brazile, you're not going to make any type of play by jumping at this right here. Maybe if you want to do a flyby closeout, you can run past him. That's been shown to bother him. But by jumping like this, you're not going to do anything. You're also fully taking yourself out of the play for someone who does not make threes consistently. Brendan Angel sees this, has a slow pump fake, and gets to the rim. He simply just smokes the layup. Let's look at a few more clips for Trevon Brazile. Firstly, let's watch this one against Duke, which was one of Arkansas's marquee wins of the season. Right here, Trevon Brazile shows a good knowledge of the scout by not running up to Mark Mitchell, as Mark Mitchell lifts right here. He instead stays in the paint and worries about the Jared McCain drive. When Jared kicks it to Mark, Mark blows by. However, Brazile is right there and really just doesn't fall for Mark's pump fake, something that he's very much known for. Really good defense from Brazile. Finally, let's look at Brazile's talk, because it's not really there. In this possession, you're going to see Trevon Brazile really struggle to recognize potential rotations. Firstly, you need to call out who's going to get number 0. Ideally, that would be number 4. However, 4 is late. Right here, the pass happens, and 4 comes over here. Once 4 runs over to 0, you should almost be like a string and immediately be pushed back to 11, because now 4 is no longer guarding 11. Instead, Brazile decides to turn his head, and now you have 2 guys guarding the center and not a single player guarding 11, which then leads to this wide open read. Brazile is late and tries to get a Cornet contest in. That's not going to work. You see this poor talk and communication again in the SEC tournament against South Carolina. Right here, he decides to fire on Colin Murray-Boyles. After that, they kick the ball out, and then Brazile needs to recognize which guy he's running to. Right here, number 2 is the one guy who's not guarded, so you want to run as hard as you can. Right here, he instead, for some reason, decides to go to the man who's already covered. despite his teammate literally pointing him out to go to the opposite direction. Instead, his teammate tries to almost push him, as you see his teammate's hand right here on him, towards the defender. However, it's just too late. Really bad communication. Overall, Trevon Brazile leaves a lot to be desired. I think there's a lot of better shot selections he could make. He could work on his ball handling. His passing wasn't even showcased on the video because it doesn't really exist, and there's a lot of things he could work on. That being said, like, people with at 6'10" who can shoot the ball and have his level of athleticism don't come around all that often. Although in today's NBA, it is becoming a lot more common than it used to be. So I think this 6'10" stretch 4/5 ability isn't necessarily the guarantee that it used to be that you're going to be able to get NBA minutes. I think when watching Brazile, for me, I think a team is going to see enough of those bright spots to take a flyer on him probably late in the second round. However, I wouldn't be shocked if he has a bad combine, if he doesn't interview well, if he potentially falls to be undrafted. And I think a lot of mocks have him much higher than I do. And I think that the reason they have that is because of the hype that he had coming in and because of those flashes of really exciting plays. For me, I think his number one concern is just going to be able to make quicker and better decisions. I think that's the first thing he's going to have to work on. And at 21 years old, it takes time. So he's still young. He has things he can work on. But he's not extremely young. He's not a 19-year-old prospect coming into this class. And each month matters when you're evaluating NBA draft prospects. I think kind of my ceiling for him, if he's able to figure it out, if he's able to kind of put on some more weight, I think he could be a pretty solid backup big in the NBA, someone that could stretch the floor. There's always a role like that. Every team has some backup big that can shoot. I think that's something that he could really work on and he can do. However, his floor, if he's unable to kind of eliminate these really bad habits, is he's out of the NBA in a year. I think he'll probably get a two-way contract his first year. And I think for him to be successful, he wants to be very intentional about working on eliminating those habits. And I think if he does that, he could have a pretty decent career. Overall, that's my take. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for the next video.